So who are you online? They used to be a really simple question, right? But things have gotten a lot more complicated than just a username and password. Now, we've got artificial intelligence, AI, that's starting to act on our behalf, creating this digital version of you that can go out and do things all on its own. So how in the world did we get here? And more importantly, what does this mean for the future of who we are?
Just think back for a second. What was it? Come on, you can remember. It was probably something super simple, right? Maybe your dog's name and the year you were born. That one password that was your very first digital handshake. It was your key to the whole online world. Man, it felt so straightforward back then. In the early days, your online identity was basically a user in a box. You had one login for one computer inside one network. Simple. But today, that box has been completely shattered. Now your identity is more like a swarm of digital entities. You've got apps, devices, and now these AI agents that are all acting as you all across the internet. It's a huge change. So let's trace the journey. Okay, our story really begins with the first big push to secure corporate networks. The goal was actually pretty simple back then. Build a digital fortress to keep all the important company data safe from the big, bad outside world.
So, the first tries back in the 90s used this protocol called NTLM. The problem was, it had this massive flaw that made it pretty easy for hackers to just grab passwords out of the air. The real game changer was a protocol called Kerberos, which showed up with Windows 2000. Now, instead of just checking a password, Kerberos was like a central ticket office. It would securely hand out these temporary passes for everything on the network. For its time, it was amazing, and a lot of people call this the golden age of office security.
And this phrase, the office fortress, it just perfectly captures the mindset. Everything important was inside the company walls. Kerberos was the guard at the main gate, checking everyone's ID and giving them tickets to get around inside. And you know what? It worked incredibly well, as long as you never ever left the castle. But of course, we did leave the castle. Businesses started moving everything to the cloud, and boom, suddenly that whole fortress model was completely broken. Our identities needed a way to travel safely across the wide-open internet. The solution to this puzzle was a concept called federation. The best way to think about it is like a digital passport system. Your main identity, say your work account, that's your home country. It issues you this trusted passport that lets you get into other services, the foreign countries, without having to show your birth certificate and all your private details at every single border crossing. Now, this whole digital passport system was built on a series of standards that just kept getting better. First, there was SAML, which was kind of the early version. Then came OAuth, which focused really specifically on authorization, letting one app do something for you in another app. And finally, we got OpenID Connect, or OIDC, which was built right on top of OAuth to create the simple, clean login system we all use today.
And yep, this is the magic you are using every single day. Anytime you click Sign in with Google or Sign in with Apple, that's OIDC doing the work. It's the secret sauce that lets you prove who you are without having to create and type a new password into 100 different websites.
Okay, so let's jump to right now, because this foundation is what makes the next leap possible, and it is a radical shift. We're literally creating a whole new kind of workforce, autonomous AI agents that need their very own form of identity.
And we're not talking about simple little scripts here. We're talking about agentic AI. Think of them like digital employees that can actually reason, plan, and carry out complex jobs. But here's the tricky part. How do you give a piece of code an identity, right? It can't memorize a password. It doesn't have a fingerprint. It needs a totally new kind of secure identity. Let's walk through a quick example. Picture this. It's the day after Microsoft drops its big monthly security patches. Instead of a team of humans scrambling, a swarm of AIs gets to work. First, an auditor agent scans 10,000 servers. Its only permission is to read, nothing else. Then, it creates a secure cryptographic proof of what it found and hands that off to a remediation agent. This second agent has one job and one job only: create tickets in ServiceNow. See how their roles are totally separate and super limited?
So here is the really crucial part: how we keep these agents secure. The old way would have been to give them these long-term API keys. They're basically digital skeleton keys that, if a hacker got their hands on one, would give them access to everything. The new way uses that same OIDC tech we just talked about, but it issues these temporary, narrowly focused tokens that only work for one specific job.
And this is a massive upgrade for security. It means that if a hacker manages to steal one of these tokens, who cares? It becomes totally useless in a matter of minutes. There are simply no permanent secrets lying around to be stolen. The identity just vanishes once the job is done.
Now, this idea of secure temporary identity for AI isn't just for huge companies. The very same concepts are paving the way for a pretty wild future for your personal identity. So let's jump in a time machine for a second and imagine what your digital life might look like around the year 2030.
The bedrock of this future is something called a decentralized identifier, or a DID. I mean, think about it. Right now, your online identity is basically rented from companies like Google or Apple. A DID, on the other hand, is an identity that you truly own. It's anchored on a public ledger, which means no single company can ever delete it or control it. It's yours, period.
The second piece of the puzzle is the zero-knowledge proof. Now this is pure cryptographic magic. It lets you prove a fact is true, like say that you're over 21, without actually revealing the secret information itself, like your actual birth date. It is verification without exposure. It's amazing.
Okay, so let's put these two technologies together. Let's imagine a person named Sarah. She's living this incredibly seamless, private, and digitally native life.
So Sarah walks into a pharmacy. Her smart ring, which is tied to her biometrics, talks to the checkout counter. The pharmacy system just asks a simple question. Is she covered? And her ring sends back a cryptographically signed yes. That's it. The pharmacy gets the proof it needs, but learns absolutely nothing else about her. Not her name, not her policy number, not her address. Nothing.
Okay, but what happens if something goes wrong? I mean, what if that powerful little identity device gets stolen? The thief snatches her ring. The instant it loses contact with her skin, that biometric link is broken and it deauthorizes itself. Then, from her phone, Sarah triggers a global revocation of the DID that was tied to that ring. In milliseconds, the ring becomes a totally useless piece of metal, blacklisted absolutely everywhere. Now that is real security.
So, as we've seen, this idea of the Sentinel, the guardian of our identity, it has evolved in some pretty dramatic ways over the last few decades.
This table really lays out the whole journey. And if you look closely, you can see a clear pattern, right? Each new era was defined by a new challenge, from just securing the local office to enabling the cloud. But what's really interesting is that for every new hacker move, like token theft, a new modern defense rose up to meet it. It's this constant cat-and-mouse game. And as we look ahead to threats like quantum computing, you can see the next generation of defenses is already in the works.
And all of this brings us to one last, pretty fundamental question. As we start to delegate more and more of our actions, our decisions, and our interactions to these autonomous agents, the very definition of you starts to get a little blurry. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. When your AI is acting for you, who are you?